Coach, obviously, playing Ole Miss 1-3-1 trap is going to be a thing you guys have to prepare for. How much have you talked to the team or prepared for that obstacle?
That'll be a focus for us today in our practice. Yesterday, we just kind of walked through what they do offensively. Didn't do a lot of physical work yesterday from the standpoint of on the court. After a long, tough game against Florida, I felt it was better that we approach it this way. And so today we'll be working on it quite a bit. And they do a great job in their 1-3-1. Really force a lot of turnovers. That's something that Kermit's always done with his teams, whether it be Middle Tennessee or Ole Miss.
Had a follow-up too, Coach. Any update on JD if he may play tomorrow night?
He'll practice today, which is his first practice in terms of getting a lot of time out there on the floor. Prior to the Florida game, on the day of the game, he could have practiced some, but it made no sense because we knew he wasn't going to be able to play. So he's been getting good conditioning in, working out hard, and so we expect him to play minutes tomorrow.
Joel, go ahead.
Ben, this is kind of along the lines of a question I asked you a week or two ago, but this team has just kind of so far this season seemed to have proven itself to be able to play together and the pieces fit together just so well. I guess overall, you're 4-2 in SEC play, just as well as this team has done. Have they kind of come together as a group quicker than maybe you would have thought going into the season? Just where do you feel like this team is at right now? I know it's still a long way to March, but they just seem to really be playing well together.
Yeah, you know what? We had a really good win against Florida after a disappointing loss against Texas A&M. I think our guys have great chemistry and really like each other, and there's a real good bond within this group. And there's good role definition. And we know, we've got one of the best trios in terms of scoring in, DJ Iverson and Tolu in the conference, in the SEC. I think they're second in terms of points per game, those three guys. Abdul's, no question, our leader and the best defender in the league. He protects the paint, does a great job on ball screen, and I thought he had his best game this season against Florida tonight with 11 points, 9 rebounds, 3 blocks, and all the other things that don't show up on the stat sheet. It was interesting. I watched the replay of the game, so I was doing edits of it to show the team yesterday. And I listened to the announcers from ESPN2 talk about their conversation. Mike White saying how impressed Mike was with Abdul going into the game prior to when we played. Just that, he does so many things that don't show up on a stat sheet that make his team win. And I thought Davon played really well the other night. He had 25 big minutes, and his minutes and the uptick in his minutes is really helping our team perform better, I think. But this is a huge game for us against Ole Miss. Obviously, not only is it a rivalry game, but this is our last home game for a while because we have 4 road games coming up. So this is a critical game for us as we get ready to embark on 2 straight weeks of playing everything on the road in the conference.
Well, swing it up to Lexington, Kentucky, and go to Jerry Tip. Jerry, go ahead.
Ben, I seem to remember that you told us in the preseason to look out for Alabama as a contending team in the SEC. I wonder if I remember that right, and if so, or even if not, what do you think of the start Alabama is on?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I think that Herb Jones and Petty are 2 of the best players in our league, and they're seniors. And there's so few teams that have those seniors with all that experience that are really good players. I mean, Petty almost left to go to the NBA. Really, that was a close decision apparently. That, I think that Alabama thought he was going to leave, and then he decided to come back. Those 2 guys are incredibly good players. Shackelford had a very good freshman year last year. I think he averaged close to 17 a game as a freshman. They've added some really good new pieces like a Bruner, like a Primo. Reese is another senior that come back that's a very effective three-point shooter that knows their scheme and knows their system now. So I'm not surprised at all by how well Alabama's played and what they've accomplished. And They're now in the top 20. I think they're 18 in the country now in the polls, so that's well deserved.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go ahead and go to Garrett Hodge. Garrett?
Ben, I know you've told us many times that your team treats every game as big, no matter who it is, but considering there is a lot of Mississippi players on your roster playing on this, do they maybe just get a little bit more up for this one, considering the rivalry, and how much does that kind of mean to you?
Yeah, I think both teams are always up for this game, being the longest standing rivalry in the conference. You have all the SEC teams that play basketball. Mississippi State and Ole Miss have been playing the longest and have played the most games. And our fan bases in this state, as we all know that are living in this state, understand that, this is the biggest game of the year for everybody each and every year. We play it twice. Football plays it once. But it's always huge.
Go over to Columbus and John Sokoloff. John, go ahead.
Ben, you mentioned the press and the matchups kind of briefly earlier, but specifically, how do you see your team kind of matching up with the Rebels based on the tape?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, they're really a talented team. I think their team has got so much depth. I think it's one of the things that really makes them difficult. They can play a lot of guys. They have great bodies. This is, a really good defensive team. They've been in the top of all the defensive stats. You look at defensive field goal percentage and forcing turnovers. They really get out and pressure you. And, not only is that 1-3-1 zone a part of what they do, but just really good man-to-man. They're doubling the post more than they've done the previous 2 years with Kermit. So they've added some things that they're doing. They're forcing it more baseline in their man-to-man defense. But I love their personnel is really good. I mean, they have great guards. I think this kid that sat out last year, Joyner, is a very, very good player that's really playing well. The last 2 games, he's been fantastic for them. Shooting the ball and does a great job of scoring it. Schuler is a really good player, their leading scorer. He was great last year, really, really good player. Rodriguez got hurt a year ago, and they had, really had high hopes for him a year ago. Well, he's playing like it now. I mean, he's a good defender and a good shooter, good rebounder, big, strong, physical presence. I think Buffin's playing great for him. He's a key guy. He's got a lot of experience. He's in his 3rd year now and has started his first 2 years. So he's got the most experience of anybody in their program other than Schuler. And I think the addition of Romello White inside has been huge. He's their second leading scorer. We played against Romello when he was at Arizona State a couple of years back when Quindari was a senior. We were in a tournament out there and played them. And he's a very good player. I think he was all league. And I think he may even led the Pac-12 in rebounding last year. He's really a presence. And they have depth. Kasai's still back at the 5. They have a kid, Allen, who's a transfer from Sanford's a very good player, a lefty, at the 4. They've got Morrell and Crowley at the backup guards that are both good players that have very bright futures, that are young. One's a freshman, one's a sophomore. They've got a lot of depth. They have a lot of different guys you have to be prepared for.
And a follow-up to that, quick little 2-parter. One, how's Abdul doing? You mentioned kind of how he was, obviously, during the game. And 2, you mentioned you thought it was his best game of the year. Do you kind of think that whole situation with him, where he almost had, or you thought he might have had COVID, or where he was just really sick, and the next few weeks were in jeopardy of being taken away from him, do you think that kind of maybe lit a fire under him to kind of obviously have more of a, I don't want to say a chip on his shoulder, but more of a fire going into last
You know
week's
what? It's funny how many athletes, if you talk to guys that have played games where they were sick or weren't feeling well, it's amazing how some of the best games ever are guys that played when they weren't feeling well. I know my most points I ever scored in a high school game, I was really sick. But if you ask any athlete, if you ever played sick or hurt, they'll tell you. And I don't know what it is. I know it's just a focus that you get because, you've been dealing with so much. Now you're just locked in. But, he really brought it, and he knew what an important game it was for this team to come back and get a win after a disappointing loss against A&M on Wednesday. So I think for Abdul, that was his motivation. I got to do whatever I got to do to help my team win. And, the dunk he had, which was incredibly an inspiring dunk that really got us going, and then a late dunk late in the game. He had two just monster jams. He played great at both ends of the floor. I'm really happy and proud of him. And to answer your initial question, he's feeling a lot better, and so he's doing well, which is, obviously a big deal for us.
We'll wrap it up today with Paul Jones. Paul?
Coach, you talked a lot this year about the youth and inexperience on the team and having to go through experiences and learn from their mistakes. With that being said, how do you think that learning curve has been with those guys learning from their mistakes and coming back better for it?
I think it's been good. I think, we're doing a good job of it. Just, learning. We watch a lot of film. This is probably the most film we've watched with the team since I've been here. I mean, we watch a lot of film, trying to use it as teaching moments, both positive, showing all the good things, and also showing things we've got to get better at. And that's something with a young team you really got to do. And so I think our team's getting better. Like I was really proud of Tolu's defensive effort in the last game. He tied his career blocks, but he did so many things defensively that don't show up on the stat sheet that helped us win. And that's a big deal. Our guards did a great job rebounding defensively. I mean, I think DJ had 4, Iverson had 6, and Davon had 4. So that's 14 defensive rebounds out of the 1 and the 2 spot that are huge. Things like that.